Happening now in our cultural atlas, the Museum of International Folk Art in Santa Fe is shedding light on one of the most misunderstood styles of European and American craftsmanship. It's a style that's unmistakable as it is unforgettable. Tramp art. It's the arresting moniker given to a fascinating subset of folk art. But the name can be misleading when it comes to the craft's origins.
It was believed at one point that it was made by hobos or tramps, by itinerants who were traveling usually westward on the railroad.
This, among several other misconceptions about the art form, are explored in No Idle Hands, the myths and meaning of tramp art now showing at the Museum of International Folk Art in Santa Fe.
A lot of people compare tramp art as something that was made by men in the same way in which quilting was done by women.
In the late 19th century, working men throughout homes in both Europe and the United States were looking for a way to pass the time.
A lot of times they were immigrants, or sometimes they had been in the country for several generations. Their family had been in the country for several generations.
These restless individuals took up the woodworking craft, but instead of using big chunks of wood, they opted to recycle old cigar boxes, adding to the craft's pragmatic style.
It is just an additive process. And the cigar boxes were especially helpful because they were so thin that they could be layered. People would take the cigar boxes apart, notch the edges. There would be a simple V-notch along the edges, so it would visually look like the edge of a serrated knife. And then they would be layered, getting incrementally smaller. And so often they have this sort of pyramidal feel to them because as they get incrementally smaller, it makes this pyramid.
One of the key tenets of tramp art is practicality. While the piece is a work of art, it also serves a purpose.
We have examples of boxes and we have frames, which are the most typical things. There's clock cases, there's banks, there's a whole variety of objects. Anything that was needed, they could make it.
But as curator Laura Addison says, the style ranges from the humble to the Baroque.
The ones that are more kind of ornate, it seems that they tended to be more of the gifts, or they were the carver showing off what his skills were. So we have a lot of examples of jewelry boxes, for example, that were given as gifts. Sometimes they're inscribed. This was an art of sentimentality. It was made by men as gifts to the women in their life.
Although the golden age of tramp art began more than 100 years ago, the craft persists today, and guests to No Idle Hands have the opportunity to see the works of modern masters, like Freehand Tanner.
He's a landscape designer, and he came to tramp art, again, out of this need for framing. He needed framing for some of his botanical prints, and he found that he had this love of working with his hands and with wood.
Tanner's creations are part of more than 150 works on display at MOIFA's exhibition, and the exhibition itself is the collaboration of more than 22 private collections worldwide.
We started with this core from our collection. We had 90 examples of mostly religious tramp art, and that gave us this sort of launching pad to further amplify what our collection was and to do this exhibition.
From the humble to the fantastical, the sacred to the secular, No Idle Hands, the myths and meanings of tramp art demystifies this often misunderstood art form and leaves its guests with surprises around every corner.
It's unexpected. People, and I've heard them say that, they come in here and they're blown away, and they say, this is not what I expected at all.
No Idle Hands runs now through September of 2018 at the Museum of International Folk Art in Santa Fe. And while you're in the neighborhood, be sure to swing by the Museum of Indian Arts and Culture, as well as the Santa Fe Botanic Gardens, both located on Museum Hill. Now, tramp art can also be created from fruit and wine crates, depending on the artist and the region in which they're working. For more information on this exhibition, head over to foxnewmexico.com.